The busy streets of Manhattan were no strangers to noise and chaos, but today was different. A sharp December wind howled through the towering skyscrapers, carrying a biting chill that made people pull their coats tighter. Among the rushing crowd, a man stumbled and fell to the ground. His tattered coat flapped in the wind, and his worn-out shoes offered little protection from the freezing pavement. His face was pale, his breath uneven, and his trembling hands clutched at his chest. He tried to cry out, but his voice was faint. People paused briefly, their gazes flicking toward him before moving on. Some pulled out their phones, capturing the moment like it was entertainment, but no one stepped forward to help. A sleek black limousine rolled to a stop nearby, blending into the chaos until its back door opened. From it emerged Baron Trump, a tall, sharp-featured man who seemed out of place in the bleak cityscape. Known for his composed demeanor and privileged lifestyle, he had the air of someone detached from the struggles of ordinary people. But as Baron's sharp blue eyes fell on the man lying on the pavement, his expression shifted. Something unfamiliar flickered across his face: concern. Without hesitation, he moved through the crowd and crouched beside the man. Placing a steady hand on the man's shoulder, he spoke with calm urgency. "Stay with me. Help is coming." Turning to his driver, he barked, "Call 911, now!" The man's cracked lips moved as he gasped, "Help me!" Baron's expression softened. "I've got you," he assured, his voice firm yet soothing. The crowd murmured, whispers swirling as they watched the billionaire act out of character. Phones recorded the scene, but Baron ignored them all. Minutes later, the blaring sirens of an ambulance pierced the air. Paramedics arrived and quickly attended to the man, loading him onto a stretcher. As they prepared to transport him, a small piece of paper fluttered to the ground from the man's pocket. Baron picked it up instinctively, unfolding it to reveal shaky handwriting. The words hit him like a punch to the chest. "To anyone who finds this, I'm sorry I failed. Please take care of my daughter. Her name is Lily." Baron's heart raced as he read the note again. A flood of questions consumed him. Who was this man? Where was Lily? Why did this feel so personal? Folding the note carefully, he slipped it into his pocket. His jaw tightened as he turned to his driver. "Follow the ambulance," he instructed. The limousine slid back into the stream of traffic. As Baron gazed out of the window, his mind swirled with thoughts. For years, the world saw him as nothing more than the son of a billionaire, a figurehead of privilege and status. But today, something had changed. This wasn't about image or fame. It was about doing the right thing. He had no idea that this decision would change his life forever. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and carried a heavy air of desperation. Baron sat stiffly in the waiting room, ignoring the curious stares of nurses and patients. He wasn't there to impress anyone. When the doctor finally emerged, Baron was on his feet immediately. "How is he?" The doctor sighed. "Stable for now, but he's malnourished and severely exhausted. Do you know him?" Baron hesitated. "Not really, but I found this." He handed over the note. The doctor frowned as he read it. "A daughter?" "He hasn't mentioned a daughter." "Can I see him?" Baron asked. The doctor nodded, and Baron followed him into a dimly lit room. The man lay motionless on the hospital bed, his face pale, his breathing shallow. Suddenly, his eyes fluttered open. They fixed on Baron with a faint spark of recognition. "Lily," he rasped. "Where is she?" Baron asked gently. "Alone." The man's voice cracked as tears welled in his eyes. "Promise me you'll find her." Baron leaned closer, his voice steady. "I promise." The man's grip on consciousness slipped as exhaustion overtook him. Baron left the room, the weight of his promise pressing heavily on his shoulders. Using the man's ID, Baron tracked down his address, a rundown apartment in a forgotten corner of the city. The elevator groaned as it carried him to the 4th floor. He knocked on a peeling door, his heart pounding. A small voice answered, "Who is it?" Baron's throat tightened. I'm here to help. The door creaked open, revealing a little girl no older than 6. Her wide, frightened eyes stared up at him, her face smudged with dirt. She clutched a stuffed bunny with a torn ear. "Are you Lily?" Baron asked softly. She nodded, her lower lip trembling. "Where's Daddy?" Baron crouched to her level. "He's in the hospital, but he's going to be okay. Can I come in?" Lily hesitated before stepping aside. Baron entered the tiny apartment and felt his heart sink. The room was cold and bare, with barely any furniture or food. Lily stood by the door, watching him cautiously. She looked scared, hungry, and utterly alone. "Do you like pizza?" Baron asked, breaking the silence. Her eyes lit up for a moment before she looked down. "Daddy says we can't afford it." Baron smiled gently. "Well, today's special. Let's get pizza." For the first time, Lily smiled, a small hesitant curve of her lips. Baron's chest tightened. How long had it been since this little girl had felt happy? Baron placed a quick order for pizza and sat down on the threadbare couch, watching as Lily clutched her stuffed bunny tightly. The little girl stayed near the wall, her eyes darting between Baron and the door as if unsure whether to trust him. As the pizza arrived, Baron opened the box, releasing a warm, comforting aroma that filled the cold apartment. He placed a slice on a paper plate and held it out to Lily. "Here," he said gently. She hesitated, her small hands clutching the bunny tighter. Finally, hunger overpowered her caution. She stepped forward, taking the plate carefully. She sank onto the floor, crossing her legs, and took a small bite. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You're welcome," Baron replied, his tone soft. "It's important to eat." For a moment, there was silence as Lily devoured the pizza, her small face lighting up with each bite. Baron observed her closely, trying to piece together her story. The apartment was devoid of warmth or life, a stark contrast to the luxury he had grown up with. "Lily," he began cautiously, "can you tell me about your dad?" Her chewing slowed and she glanced up at him. "Daddy works a lot. He tries to take care of me, but—" Her voice trailed off as her big brown eyes filled with uncertainty. "But," Baron encouraged gently. "We don't have much," she admitted, lowering her gaze. "Daddy says things will get better, but he's always tired, and sometimes he gets sick." Baron felt a pang of guilt and determination. No child should have to carry such a burden. "Do you have any other family?" he asked. Lily shook her head. "It's just me and Daddy." Baron leaned back slightly, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He couldn't just leave her here. Not like this. "Lily," he said, keeping his voice calm, "would you like to visit your dad at the hospital tomorrow?" Her eyes widened, and she nodded eagerly. "Can I? I want to see him." "Of course," Baron assured her. "But until then, I'll stay here with you. Is that okay?" She hesitated, then gave a small nod. "Okay." The night passed slowly. Baron found an old blanket and wrapped it around Lily as she fell asleep on the couch. He sat in a rickety chair nearby, staring out of the window at the dim city lights. His mind raced with thoughts of what needed to be done. The next morning, Baron arranged for a cab to take them to the hospital. He held Lily's hand as they entered, her tiny fingers clutching his tightly. She looked up at him, her trust growing with every step. When they reached her father's room, Lily's face lit up. "Daddy!" she cried, running to his side. Her father, still weak but conscious, managed a faint smile. "Lily?" Baron watched from the doorway as Lily climbed onto the bed, carefully hugging her father. The sight stirred something deep within him, a sense of responsibility he couldn't ignore. "Thank you," the man said hoarsely, his eyes meeting Baron's, "for taking care of her." Baron nodded. "You're welcome, but I'm not done yet." The man's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Baron began firmly. "You're not going back to that apartment. Neither of you are. I'll make sure you get the help you need." Tears welled in the man's eyes. "I can't. I don't have the means." "You don't need to," Baron interrupted. "I'll take care of it. Both of you deserve better." The man tried to protest, but the exhaustion in his voice betrayed his gratitude. Baron turned to Lily, who was beaming at her father. "Lily," Baron said, crouching to her level, "how would you feel about moving to a safer, warmer place with your dad?" Her eyes sparkled with hope. "Really?" "Really," Baron promised. In the days that followed, Baron made good on his word. He arranged for the man to receive proper medical care and found them a safe, comfortable apartment. He ensured Lily had warm clothes, nutritious food, and even enrolled her in a nearby school. Through it all, Baron couldn't shake the sense of fulfillment he felt. For the first time, his wealth wasn't just a symbol of status, it was a tool for change. As he watched Lily laugh and play in her new home, he realized that this wasn't just about helping one family. It was about redefining who he was and what he stood for. Baron had always been seen as the son of a billionaire, a man living in privilege. But now, he was something more. He was someone who cared. And for the first time, he felt truly alive.